us. It is Ken, and I owe him an apology, Executive Director, Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association. How many times have I called you Ken Newberry?
6.
I think the majority of times.
Yeah, most times.
It would be a lot easier for just to change the name there, but
I've thought about it, but I get called a lot of other names, so I like Newberry.
Oh, do you? Okay, so it's not just it's not just me
right.
then. Okay,
right.
Good. Ken Newburger, not Ken Newberry, but either way, he still answers, and he still comes in, so that's good news. Look, I want to get some stat reports for you on some of the new things that are going on as far as the progress across the state from the members of your association, which is the Medical Marijuana Association. There are a couple of things that really are disturbing, and I know they are to you too, because I know you want this program to work the way it's supposed to work in the state. Pennsylvania clinical therapist had a story last week, and I've seen this now, I believe, on 2 or 3 other places. She has a warning that marijuana is now being mixed with, fentanyl is now being mixed with marijuana. And that is scary. It's the number one killer. Nobody's talking about this. The number one killer of young people in the United States of America. The reason the warning takes on extra meaning, Pennsylvania, is because the John Fetterman, who is now going to be senator, and he's senator-elect, is going to be putting forth in the Senate, if he possibly can, more open laws and decriminalization of all kinds of drugs. But she said basically that the fentanyl situation has become rampant and a crisis. And I thought, I thought I had that in, here it is right here, just to give you an idea of this as we get kick-started here.
McCall, the top Republican on the Foreign Affairs Committee. If you wanted to poison Americans in this country, you would have a hard time finding a more effective weapon than fentanyl has been across this border. A lot of big money, cartels are behind this effort. Mexican drug lords involved, Chinese elements involved in this too.
It's the leading cause of death in Americans between the ages of 18 to 45, and it's coming in 8,000 pounds of this stuff, enough to kill the American people 7 times over. The border is controlled now by drug cartels making money off this. And then China, they're sending the precursors to make this stuff. Then they make money off that. At the same time, killing and poisoning Americans. It's like the opium wars reversed.
That's exactly
We're China
right.
now. What a great foreign policy for China, right? And we're letting it happen, and this administration has let it happen.
You know, to the point also, there was an associate story on this one, Ken, of a DEA agent that they outed. They thought it was only him, sex and drugs, and he was corrupt. And now they found out it's actually dozens of DEA agents who've thrown up their hands, living lavishly, saying that this is not a winnable war. So they're just taking the lanyard and doing what they can. And I say that only because associations like yours are going to be tremendously needed, because all of this is out there. How does it sneak its way in to the medical marijuana supply, certainly in edibles, but elsewhere? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's elsewhere, mostly because we haven't seen the program launch here. But what you've seen, and this is what I've heard from several other states, is that when you have not a tightly regulated program like we have here, and when you overtax the industry, you start seeing the rise of cartels. And we haven't done that here. We haven't seen that pop up here. And I think that as the Department of Health continues to work with themselves and with our industry and with law enforcement, we're not going to see that happen here in the same way.
Well, but in some places you have the cartels that are so, come on, these guys don't play around. They come and say, we know where you live, we know where your family is, we know when your kid goes to school, and we want to put some of this product in your store. How do you guard against that?
Well, I mean, they have to start. You can't put something in a store that isn't tracked by the Department of Health here. So I mean, they'd have to go to the government and say, hey, we're going to take over the government, which I don't think that's happening in Mississippi.
Well, we don't, we got a long way to go. It's happened in some other states, unfortunately, but we'll have to see where that goes. Give us some kind of an update of where we are now. This is the 16th of November. We're not too far from Thanksgiving. Are we ahead of schedule, behind schedule? Let's talk about the processors, the dispensaries, the practitioners. Where are we across the state?
So when it comes to the actual product itself, we're right on schedule. We started planting a couple companies in July when they got their licenses. They're starting to harvest now. A couple companies have done their first harvest. A couple are in the process of doing it. We'll see some product by the end of the year. But the real thing is, will it be tested? Because our testing companies have to go through a very rigorous validation process, and they're going through it right now. And so we're thinking, maybe end of December, but, early Q1 is when we'll see the first, and then Q2 is when we're going to see a really bigger spike.
Are the processors not the processors? Are the growers having a problem contacting the testers? Is that a problem now, or
no? It's not. All the testers I know have said that they're inundated with calls asking, "Hey, when are you going to be ready?" And
how many testers do we have? Because we had a couple of on last week with former Governor Musgrove and Quinton on, and I know that they have a company. So
yes, so it's the two of them have their company, and then there's also Steep Hill, Mississippi. Those are the only two licensed right now. There are, I think, two others in the queue that are getting their license right now, and then two behind them who are still getting their things together to actually
so we
submit.
could actually end up with maybe 8 of them.
Yes. So we expect somewhere between 6 and 8 by the end of next year.
Strategically located, Ken, across the state?
Yes. Actually, we've got a larger group here in central Mississippi, but we've got at least one in the north and the south, as well as some on the fringes more towards Natchez and Meridian.
Mm-hmm. Are you satisfied with the number of dispensaries, and are there more people coming online?
The dispensary growth was a lot more than anticipated as quickly as it came on. We expect that somewhere between 140 and 180 dispensaries are what the market would need at maturity, and we're at 140 right now. So I'm kind of worried that some of those may not make it, but I think that we are in a way that we have enough places for people who will be getting cards to go get their medicine.
We have some people who decided to opt out, but some of those elections are going on, so I guess it's just a fluid market.
It is. The opt-in and opt-out, most places that opted out, it looks like they're going to stay opted out, and I think that was... They knew their people, and they're going to stay opted out. I think a lot of them have. Some of them have opted in. Lincoln County opted in a couple months ago, but mostly we're seeing a stability in the market where people who are buying property to open up shop, they're going to places that we're very clear we're going to be in.
When you look at the situation of the homelessness, and we talked about that a little bit earlier, as far as Philadelphia, man, that's just. I mentioned Walking Dead. It's sad to see what's going on the streets of San Francisco. In Seattle, Washington, in New York City, in Philadelphia. If you miss this, you actually have Mexico running national ads about don't do drugs, and they're using the street scenes in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as some of the examples of what could happen to young people. I mean, it doesn't look like America. And most of these people say that it started off with marijuana and it's progressively gotten all the way up to fentanyl, and the fentanyl has just made these people zombies. So how do we stop this almost instinctive march from medical marijuana into recreational marijuana?
Well, it's very clear that the Mississippi people don't want recreational right now. That they're not interested in it. They want a medical program. And I think that maybe I'm just an optimist, but I don't think we're going to see those things here. I mean, there are larger problems in those states that we don't have here.
You don't think if there's an initiative out there, recreational marijuana would pass?
Not right now. Nope.
Is there, and with everybody listening to this, would your organization, as the Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association, back a recreational initiative?
No. We've already talked about it. The association would not do that.
I want to talk about shrooms and mushrooms coming up next. You don't have any in your pocket anywhere of this?
No, I gave them to Perez.
Oh, no. Perez would put them in some pasta and feta.